your parents see it, it's you know, they're proud of you.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Bold Carnivore. Today we have a special guest, Ron from Overcoming Carbs. Woohoo! Hey, Ron, how you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you very much. So, Ron, go ahead and start telling the audience about your story, please.
My story is that I started this way of eating April 24th of this year. Started it because I was basically searching for some information for my wife. I will get into that in further detail, but this is what started my journey. And I started on April 24th. The first month, I lost about 20 pounds within the first couple of weeks because I went to the doctor April the 11th. And prior to April the 11th, I had some blood work done. And I found out when I went to the doctor on April the 11th that I was pre diabetic. I was 5.9 on my A1C. I was low testosterone, low thyroid, and also low vitamin D, which most people are because, we try to stay in the house with, everything that's been going on the last 3 years. And it was also low vitamin B12. And she wanted to put me on the testosterone replacement therapy, also on the 30 milligram of desiccated thyroid medication. And with the thyroid replacement therapy, also went to the vitamin B12 injectable. So I was doing the testosterone injectable, the B12 injectable, and vitamin D. She wanted me to take about 10 to 20,000 units a day and try to get my vitamin D up. And also the thyroid medication. Started all that in April. And when I started, she suggested, I do intermittent fasting as far as like the 16-8 or the 18-6 cycle and just try that out. And so on April 24th, when I was looking up information, I decided I'm going to do carnivore. And my next appointment was May the 11th. On May the 11th, I went in and I lost 20 pounds. And she's like, okay, what's going on? So I know it's not the thyroid medication and the testosterone, and it's not all these other things. So what are you doing? And I said, well, I was really leery. I didn't know how she would respond. And so I said, well, I'm doing a thing called carnivore diet. And she looked at me, she goes, oh, you mean that thing that Jordan Peterson does? And I was like, yeah, what's going on, about it. So she goes, oh yeah, says, well, I'll tell you what, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it because it's working. Because she had not seen me actually lose 20 pounds. And to see that, in a month to her, but in a few weeks for me was, totally different because she didn't know when I actually started. So she said, well, while you're doing this, I want you to come back every month because with the testosterone and replacement, all that, I just want to make sure you're doing all right and so forth. So the next time I went to go see her, I told her about, when I went May the 11th, I told her about a pain I was having in my back. So she says, well, let's get a chest x-ray. Let's get a sonogram. Let's just make sure everything is okay, that you're not having something going on with your gallbladder or with the kidney or something like that. So I went and had the sonogram and the chest x-ray on May 31st, and I went back to see her on June the 11th. On June the 11th, I went in and I'd lost 16 more pounds. And she gave me the results of my sonogram and said, well, you kind of got a little bit of enlarged spleen, but I'm not really worried. I got a little bit of a fatty liver, but looking at your blood work, your liver enzymes are fine. I'm not really worried about that. With the diet you're on and so forth, then I'm sure that'll straighten itself out. And chest x-ray was great and so forth. And so I was like, okay. So she said, keep doing what you're doing. Just come back and see me another month. So I went back to go see her in July, and I think I lost another 13 pounds by July. So I was down like 49 pounds at this point. And she's like, I tell you what, you just keep going. We're going to plan on your blood work in October. Let's get your blood work in, make sure everything's still looking good and that your testosterone's up and all that type of stuff. And you just come back to see me in October. So we did 3 months of seeing each other every month. And then we just basically said, okay, let's just wait till you do your blood work again. So I've gone from that July meeting with her until today. And today, as of this morning, I've lost 84 pounds. I took measurements back in July. I didn't do the measurements back in April, but I took measurements in July and I took them again in August, about 6 or 8 weeks later. And I took them in June. I took them in June. And so within the 2 months from June until August, I had lost a total of 24 inches on my body as far as, the fat that I had on me. It was mainly my chest, my stomach, and my rear. And I had a few things in, my neck, a few inches here and there, but that was a major thing, was in those areas. And that was my major non-scale victory, because just to lose that. And I look back at pictures of me, and I look at pictures just in March. There's a picture I have that where I'm sitting on a park bench with my son, and I look at that picture. Then just the other day, my wife had me put on a jacket, and that jacket was, she said, try this on. You haven't worn it since, it was winter. In Texas, we really don't have winter. And in Texas, we have, 2 seasons. It's hot or it's okay. So you have a lightweight jacket you put on. So I put on this jacket, and normally when you go to zip it up, I'm sitting here going, pulling it out, trying to get it, out so I can do it on my stomach. And I pulled it out, and I was like, holy crud, what is this? It was like major. It wasn't, I could just actually zip it without any issue. So I zip it up in my arms. I can do my arms across without it grabbing. I could only do like this because it grabbed my arms so bad. And I was like, this thing just kind of draped on me at this point. And I was like, this is just crazy putting this jacket on. And it was like, my wife was like, I figured it would be bigger, but I just didn't know how much. And I was looking down, and I was like, this is crazy, this is a 5X jacket, and it fits me like, I shouldn't have bought I shouldn't have gotten this size, because it looks way too big for me now. And that's a bad thing about this, because when you start losing weight, clothes start, fitting you a lot looser. I mean, this thing used to be tight on me, this shirt. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not spending money on the food because you're not eating that often, but you got to go and buy yourself all new clothes. So I'm going, I got to do something about this, because I bought 2 belts, like a year or 2 ago. Okay. And the first one I bought was too small. Of course, I bought it on Amazon thinking I was doing the right size, So I had to order another one that was a little bit bigger. And on that one, I started out at the very last eyelet when I was wearing it. Well, then it had like 6 more, and I pulled that in, and so then I was like, well, I can't go any further unless I cut holes in this belt. I was like, hey, wait a minute. I ordered the wrong size. So I grabbed that belt, and it was smaller, so I could do it like on the second rung on it. And, before I couldn't even get it on, and I was on the second rung. Now I'm on the 4th rung, on the 4th eyelet. And I'm like, it's crazy, but I can't really go out and just buy pants and everything, it's like, so I'm finding my old clothes that I've had for years that haven't been worn in years. And I'm like, okay, this is smaller, so I'm going to put it on right now. I'm not just going to go out and buy a whole new clothes. And it's different, because I have a shirt. I need to find it again, because there's a shirt I have when I put it on right when I first started, and I did it again in June. I need to put it on again and take another picture, but to see how it's fitting, because it's a size 4X shirt, and I'm was in almost six, or most of a lot of my clothes were 6, 5, and 6, and that 4X, I need to find it again and try it on and take another picture to see what that's like. So it's been an interesting journey now for 4.5. I guess this is what, my 21st week. Yeah, I've almost completed 21 weeks on this, and that was just one of the things. Now, the whole reason why, and what the one thing I found out, and the reason why I called this Overcoming Carbs, is I did this whole journey in recently, reviewing all the research that was out there of all the doctors and scientists and everything that talk about it. I did all this because of my wife's health. But the thing I found out is that I have a addiction. I have a substance addiction to carbs and to sugar. And basically, I didn't realize I did, because I've done Atkins, low carb keto, South Beach diet, thing called Way Down Workshop. I've done the fat free diet back in the early 2000s and maybe the late 90s is what that was. Everybody's fat free. Everything you found out there is fat free. But with fat free, what they do is, in replace of the fat, they put sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So they added more sugar to things. If you go look at like fat free dressing and stuff for salad, the carb count in there went from 1 gram of carbs or no grams of carbs for like a ranch dressing to 7 or 8 or the same thing on the light or the fat free. So instead of just taking in fat, you're taking in more carbs. And so that was one of the big things that were being pushed around here in this, in the US and everything in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so basically you're eliminating one food group and putting in just a bunch of sugar. Whereas on this way of eating, you're eliminating all the carbs, which your body can actually produce itself. It's one of the things that your body can actually, create to actually survive. Your body can't produce the protein. Your body can't produce fat because it's storing all the excess, carbohydrates that's fat. But with the nucleogenesis, you basically can produce the carbs, and your body's not going to let you just shut down because it doesn't have the carbs. So it's going to break down the fats and bring your glucose in that you need and be able to work like it's supposed to. So well-designed machine. And you don't need to have the carbs to survive. And basically, if you put too many carbs in there, it's going to create fat anyway. So doing the fat-free diet was just insane. But I did all these different things, and I didn't realize that my body actually craved or needed a sugar fix. But when I went into this way of eating, I was able to basically know that my body didn't like the things that it was craving, the things that it was firing on for the dopamine and all those things. I didn't have to have it, because when I ate meat and fat, I was satiated. I was able to feel full for the first time. Whereas with carbohydrates and the whole dopamine fix, with this kind of addiction, basically once you eat a little, just like with alcoholic or anybody who's a drug addict or anything like that, you do it a little at the beginning, but then it takes more and more and more to get that fix that your mind is wanting through the dopamine, and you get less receptors in your mind for the receptors of that dopamine. So you almost get dopamine resistance, just like eating too many carbs will give you insulin resistance. It'll also give you dopamine resistance, because it requires more and more dopamine to be able to feel satisfied. So when I would eat carbs and I would eat sugar, I would basically say, I'm not done. I need more. And my body didn't know how to stop. It just wanted more and more and more. So when I went to this way of eating, I wasn't giving it that. And it took it a while. It took it probably about 6 weeks to actually shut it off. And I didn't start the channel until August, because between April and August, I was like, is there anything that I can really show people or tell people if I'm not showing anything, or I'm not, if I don't show them any benefit that it's done to me for me? So I basically said, I'll wait until I lose enough weight, because who wants to listen to a fat guy talking about, this way of eating when he can't really, I've lost, 10 pounds or whatever, that's my thinking. Who would listen to me? And so I decided, I'm going to put it out there and just see what's going on, see if anybody will listen to it. Because I know that what the whole carb addiction can do and how your body reacts to it. And I didn't realize that for 6 weeks. And so I decided, hey, my body doesn't need it. My body took it a while to say, took my body a while to say, hey, I'm good now. I can be full. I didn't even know what an off really even felt like. Because when I would eat, it'd be just like eat, and eat, get that fixed, get that fixed. And then I finally said, I ate the meat, I ate the fat. And I was like, you can only eat so much fat, because you're going to be just like, oh, I've just had enough fat, But you have to get the protein in there too, because your body needs the protein. So it's like when you get that feeling of being actually full and you can go, I'm done. And, at the very beginning of all this, I would eat maybe half a steak. Holy cow, whenever I was eating the standard diet and I was cooking steaks for my family, I'd eat one or two while I was cooking it, And so whenever I stopped having all the other things that are in me, as a influence or, wanting that fix, I basically was able to say, I can cook a whole meal while fasting, even, because I'm doing one meal a day, which is totally, that's unreal for me, just to eat one meal a day. And then last week I went through a 72-hour fast. I'm like, I've never, I'm doing 23 hours right now. And I'm like, okay, Cassie over at Carnivore Quest, she was having issues, where she had some blood work done. She, was afraid her cancer's coming back. So it was just asked that everybody do a 48-hour fast. And I said, yeah, I'm in. I can give I've never done it. I'll give it a shot. So I started on Thursday. I didn't eat Thursday night for my normal time. And then I went to Friday. So Friday night would have been my 48 hours. And so I was like, I think I can go another day, because I feel pretty good on this. I feel I can, because have all those cravings and everything. I was drinking basically like salt water, and maybe, I had one element a day in the morning, just to make sure that, I wasn't just, just ravenous or anything. But the salt water really helped. And I was putting in like maybe an eighth to half a teaspoon of salt in a 1 liter bottle. And I would drink that. And then, I drink maybe 2 liters throughout the day. And with that salt and everything, it kind of kept me, that kept me satiated as well. And so I got to 48 hours and I was like, I can go one more day. So I decided I'd go one more day, and I went to Saturday. Well, it was perfect timing, because the challenge of that fast, I was in a slump. I'd gone from 69 pounds lost, and I'd gotten down to 76 pounds lost in about 4 or 5 weeks. So it was going to like 4 weeks that I'd only lost like 7 pounds, and I was doing more than that every week. I was doing like almost 5 or 6 pounds a week up until that point. So it got to where I was only doing 1 or 2 pounds. So I said, you know what? They say there's different ways, you can break a stall or break a plateau or some, to get your body going again, because your body basically is going to go into a mode where it's going to shut down and try to protect itself because it thinks you're trying to do some harm to it. So it's going to slow down all your processes and you're slow down your metabolism and go into basically like a hibernation mode because it thinks you're trying to do something to it that is not normal to the, because it's gone through 53 years of my body has gone through 53 years of me eating a certain way. And it's used to me eating a certain way. And now you expect your body to just automatically switch over and just keep running like like it always did and just ignore the fact that you're not eating this way anymore. Well, your body's going to do whatever it takes to actually protect itself. So there's different ways you can actually break that plateau or break the whole stall. And one of the ways is by changing your diet or cheating. Well, being a carb addict, there is no way that I want to go down that road, because it's like an alcoholic. You don't go to an alcoholic and say, here, just take a sip and, you'll be all right. And you don't see an alcoholic going to a bar or anything like that and just saying, oh, I'm just going to have, just a little bit and I'll be all right. No, that alcoholic goes into a bar. And they take one little drink. It's going to lead to more and more and more. I can't do that when I'm in the situation I am. And there's a lot of people out there that can't do that. There's a lot of people out there that just, if they eat a little bit, it's going to derail them. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. And one of the last things, they say, get more rest. Well, when you start this way of eating, your body wakes up. I mean, it says, I don't even have, I wake up before my alarm clock most days. And it's like, your body's like, bing, I'm up, and it's, oh my gosh. And, I was like, I can't really get any more rest because what am I going to do? Take a nap during the day when my body, and I'm not even tired. I've got more energy now than I ever have. And it's like, yeah, get some rest. No, that's not a good thing for a stall. They say exercise more. Well, at my size and as hot as it's been in Texas, it's been like 100 up to 110, 112 in some days. Getting outside and doing stuff is not a thing you want to do right now. So I don't want to, do that whole exercise thing. My size and my joints and everything, it's just not something that I'm just going to go out and do like a dance video or something like that. Or, I'm not going to try to do anything in the house. And they have the chair exercises, and stuff. And I'm like, that's not me. I've never been. It's kind of like, like when you're in school, it's like you have to read a book or something like that. Well, I'm not a big reader, I'm not, like the only reason why I'm going to read a book is because, I have to get an assignment done. It's not because I just want to read a book. My wife's totally opposite. She loves reading, and I don't, belittle anybody for having that desire or whatever. You want to read, go ahead. That's just not me. So exercise is kind of the same thing. I'm not a big exerciser, or else I wouldn't be 440 pounds. So, exercise. I'm like, I'm not going to. So one of the last things it says on there is to fast. And I'm like, well, I'm already doing 23 hours. What in the world, what is, how long can I go? So when this challenge came up, I was like, well, I'll do it. Let's just see if it breaks my stall. So I started the fast, and at the start of the fast, I was like 375 pounds, I think is when I started, 375, 376. When I got done, I was 358 pounds after that 3 days, because I was down to 370. And it went up to, I gained 5 pounds in one day. And I was like, this is just crazy, And that was 3 days before I started the fast. And so I went from 375 to 358 pounds. And I ate that night. And so when I weighed myself the next day, I was 2 pounds more. So I was 360 pounds. So I just said, I'm at 80 pounds. I'm not going to count the other two as being, because of everything I hadn't eaten in 3 days, and I just put some food in my body, the day before and so forth, and it hasn't made it all the way out. And I'm just going to say, hey, I'm 380 pounds, or I've lost 80 pounds, and I'm 370 pounds or 360 pounds. Sorry, numbers are all going all over my head right now. 440 to 360. So I was like, this is crazy that, I would drop that much in 3 days and from just not eating. And I was drinking tons of water, I was drinking almost 2 liters, and I was, you know, I was going, okay, this is the best way I can do it. And I'm even, thinking about fast in the future. I did three days, another 48-hour fast is not going to be that big of a deal, but I don't want to do it just to speed up the process. I don't want to, I want my body to lose the weight the way that I'm supposed to, not by me not eating. I don't want to be that person. I want to be, I want to do right. I want to eat when I need to and so forth, and not be one of these people to rush the process. Um, and then there's some guy out there that did 60 days without eating, and all he did was drink water for 60 days. I'm like, that's nuts. You're going to do some crazy things to your body, and your whole chemistry inside you and so forth. So I'm not going to be the one to do that, but I am considering, hey, maybe a month or two from now, I'm going to do another 48-hour fast. I'm not going to do this every week or anything like that. Let my body adjust, because afterwards I was hungry. I mean, I was the 23 hours after that, the next day, I was like, I don't know if I can make it to 23 hours, because I was, I was hungry the next day. So, but even with all that, this today, when I weigh myself, I was down 4 more pounds. So I've lost 84 pounds. I'm down to 356, and I consider it a blessing that I've gotten this much. I went to go see my parents today, and I told my parents, this is before I even weighed myself today. I told my parents, I was like, I've lost, I asked my mom, I said, did you tell Dad that I've lost 80 pounds? And she goes, oh yeah, I told him. He looked at me and said, yeah, and you can see it. And I was like, uh, when when your parents see it, it's, you know, they're proud of you. And, it was just nice to hear your dad say it. And, you're gone so long with this way of eating that, um, prior to doing this, and I'm sure he had doubts, but just to hear him say he can see it, because you don't hear it. You don't hear a lot of people say that. A lot of people, they don't want to say things because they think maybe, you know, you might be going through some kind of health issue or something. So they may not say something to you. But people need to know that it's an encouragement when somebody says they see it. If for my dad to say that, it was an encouragement. Um, I had a fun-filled day today. Before I came on here with you, I had to actually work on my car because I had a check engine light come up on my car when I was driving home from work, and I had it checked out. It said it was an oxygen sensor, and that needed to be replaced. So I bought the oxygen sensor, and I went over to my parents to go work on my car, and he helped me out. My dad, he's 81. He will be 81 in September the 20th, in 4 days. So I count it a blessing that he's here. and he was still able to help me, when I was working on my car. And the reason why I'm doing all this is I want to be there for my family. That I want to be there for my two boys. My son's 24 and my other son is 19, or sorry, they're 19 and 23. He'll be 24 next month. But my 19-year-old was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes January of 2019. So he just had his 4th year anniversary in January. And he was 15 years old whenever he found out. And that was the time that was basically shook the family because we weren't expecting it. And he is, I want to be here for him. And I want to be here for my other son and my wife. And that's the reason why I'm doing this. I see how my youngest, he struggles, with, the whole thing of not being able to eat this or eat that. And I want to be an example to him that you don't need all this or that. And you can be normal and not have to worry about, that you're having to take this insulin and everything. Your body failed, your pancreas failed, but you can still have a normal life. And I want to be an example for him that it can be done. And I was talking with him the other day when I was doing this fast, and he said, "Dad, you can really see it in your face." And I started thinking about it, and I was like, in the 19 years he's been here, I don't think he's ever seen me at this weight. I don't think he's ever seen his dad at 360 pounds. And I was like, I was sad that he had to see me like this. I was sad that I had basically wasted 19 years of his life and made this kind of example. And but at the same time, I was glad that he could see me because I am here and I will be here for him. So we ask ourselves, why do we do it? And why do we eat this way, or why do we do this? And it's because I want to make myself healthy. I want to be there for them because I don't want them to go, if Dad just would have done this, if Dad would have just stopped, if Dad could just, not let food be a focus, not let those things be, his driving force. Well, you know what? They don't have to think that anymore. They don't have to be there and go, if Dad would have. Now they can say, hey, Dad has made an effort. Dad loves us because he wants to be here for us. And I can be proud of that I'm doing something for them through this. And I made a pact with my oldest because of my bad example and so forth. I made a pact with him when I started. I said, hey, when I match you in weight, I want you to join me. I'm not going to make you do it now. I'm not wanting you to do it with me now, but I want you, if I can get to where you are, And when I get to where you are, I want you to do this because I see the way he eats, and uh, it's scary because he's 24. And I was like, I want you to. He goes, oh yeah, Dad, no problem. Well, I think he agreed to it because he didn't think I'd do it. Because for 24 years, I haven't shown him that I could do it. And in May, I from April to May, I was still drinking diet sodas, and uh, I basically said, you know what, that diet soda is basically sending signals to my brain the same as what sugar is because it doesn't know the difference. Your brain doesn't know. It's just saying, hey, there's something that tastes sweet. And this is, good. This is what I want. I want you. I can sit there and drink a 2 liter bottle of soda, diet soda even. I could drink that 2 liter bottle of soda in a day without any issues. And you could just suck that thing down, and the carbonation, the sweetness, the sweet tasting, it's just like, oh, that feels good. Well, that was keeping my whole thing, and that was part of that 6 weeks that it took me to overcome the whole addiction. It was because I would have that influx of the artificial. It's kind of like, people that are on marijuana and they had that K2, which was like almost a synthetic marijuana or whatever. It didn't really have the same effect, but it had the same effect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't the same issue going on, but it was a replacement. Well, that's
Different
what
substance,
artificial
but same
sweeteners are.
things.
Right. So it was like, it wasn't really illegal, but it wasn't really just something you could just go buy. It wasn't considered an illegal drug, the K2. So doing the sweeteners, the artificial ones, or even the sugar replacements, or however you want to call it. I mean, stevia, as they say, is natural, but it's still a replacement. It's still something you're getting your fix on. So I had to basically say, I can't have this. I can't do this. So when I cut them out, my wife told my son, my oldest son, said, Dad stopped drinking soda. And he was like, he did what? So he knew the game was on at that point because he's always seen me drinking, diet drinks so it was like, I'd come home, and we have a Sonic happy hour, and I'd get 4 things of diet drinks for all 4 of us, and now it's 3 things of diet drinks and a water. I'll get water even when I go to Sonic, for the restaurant, and they have happy hours, and you can do it, all day long on your phone app. So it's half price drinks. Well, I'll get water and get them all drink. And I was like, I still like the big cup, and everything. And, but it's water now. And he's like, well, I guess the game's on. And so I keep on giving him a hard time. I'm like, hey, I'm only, 50 pounds away from you now. Maybe I'll be there before Christmas. So if I keep on losing like 4 pounds a week, I figured it was going to happen right before Christmas. But I'm not going to be the Grinch. I'm not going to make, if I get him during the holidays through Thanksgiving and Christmas, if I match him during that time, I'm not going to make him start this, during the holidays. I'm going to let him, have whatever he wants. And then the first of the year, then I'm going to make him join me. Because I'm not going to be one of those. Yeah, it's like, okay, now we change it up. You're no more pizza, no more chicken tenders, no more this, no more that. No, I'm not going to do that to him. But he's. I'm hoping that'll happen before Christmas. That's what I hope, that I would match him by then, and be a great Christmas present for me. Basically, to be at that point, if I could be less than 300 pounds by Christmas. I mean, it's feasible, but I'm not saying, I'm not Shaun White. I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to lose 253 pounds in 1 year. We all can't be that, I don't have tremendous amounts of weight to lose, but I do have a lot. I mean, I guess you can say I'm two people. When I started this, um, I'm basically right now losing 84 pounds. I think I've lost my Labrador. My Labrador weighs, I think, 85 pounds. So I think I lost her in weight. I told her, I said, I lost my pet. And my wife was like, you lost what? I was like, I think I lost my pet in weight. And she goes, oh, okay, I get what you're saying now. And she's just a moose. But I look at her and I look how big she is, and I'm like, golly, I've lost that much. It's just gone out. The whole fat burning process is just totally weird. I mean, they talk about it. You lose it when you exhale, and I'm like, what? Because I'm like, when you're breathing, you're losing fat, and I'm like, this is just weird. The whole process of fat burning, and I was like, because from you were like, where's it going? And then you read the whole process, and you're, oh man, this can't be right. I can't be losing it when I'm breathing. I'm like, what is everybody smelling that I'm not smelling when I'm burning fat through my breath? I'm like, oh my gosh. But anyway, that's what that's pretty much my story, but it's not why I actually began this process.
Well, go ahead and tell us about
And
that.
my wife was why.
Yeah.
My wife she's a trooper. Um, she had her thyroid irradiated in 2011. And prior to that, she went gluten free because she was having a lot of issues with swelling. And I mean, you could touch the top of her head and it was like spongy. And uh, you could just see it in her face and everything that she had all this swelling. So he said, maybe you've got something going on with gluten because you're just, every time you eat, you're just miserable and everything. Well, right before that, she had her gallbladder out because they thought, she was having issues with her gallbladder. Well, she had that removed and she went gluten free and she lost a lot of weight and a lot of swelling. We're like, hey, we're on to something. It's great. You're not as swollen and everything, but she started losing a lot of weight and she was having issues with breathing and things. And doctors would tell her it was anxiety and, it's just, you're just a stressed out mom. We're like, what? This doesn't sound right. Why is she having a hard time breathing? And, we would go walking like in a mall or something and we'd have to stop because she's lost weight. And I'm like, well, what is going on? So one day we decided to go to the doctor and we went to the doctor. She had a resting heart rate of 140 beats a minute, just sitting there. And the doctor said, I think it was a nurse practitioner at the time. And we had the blood work done. And she's like, okay, I need you to go to the hospital. You're probably going to need to have a stress test because your heart's racing so much. And we're like, we left there. We're going, I don't think we ought to go to the hospital and do a stress test. That just doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound what you need to have. And we prayed about it. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. So we went to go see my parents and we're like, this is what they said, but we don't think we ought to do it. What do you think? They said, no, I don't think so either. And so we didn't go to the hospital. Monday, they called us and said, did you go have that stress test? And we're like, no. And they said, well, it's a good thing because it's your thyroid. You are crazy on your thyroid. It's just off the charts. So we made an appointment with an endo and we went to go see the endo and they said, okay, we're going to go have the radioactive, well, it's not radioactive. It's the iodine dye and scan to see how much is in you. So she took the iodine pill and they did the scan and she was 97% saturated on her body with thyroid hormone. And her overactive thyroid at that point was just throwing her whole body into a tizzy. And she said, okay, the endo basically said, okay, we're going to put you on the medication for hyperthyroid. Well, my wife had a reaction to it. And they said, well, the only other thing we can do is irradiate it or have surgery and take it out. And the thing that kills me is what we know now as far as iodine, magnesium, things like that, and inflammation and all that type of stuff. If we would have known then what we know now, we might have been able to save our thyroid. But we didn't know. And so we took the doctor's suggestion to have it irradiated because we're like, what can we do? You can't take the medication. So we got to do something because it's killing you. So we had it irradiated, and they said probably within 3 or 4 months, by the time you get through all this hormone and out of you, then we'll put you on a thyroid replacement. Well, that was in November. By December, she was already having symptoms of no thyroid. She was gaining weight rapidly. And she was having all these other things of hypothyroid. So we went to the doctor and said, there's no way you could already be, in this situation. Well, let's come in and have a blood test and let's see. So we did the blood test and she was totally hypo at this point. Everything was gone out of her system. My wife is one of those highly sensitive people where she can take, small amounts of medicine and it will react in her body. I think that's one of the reasons why she had a reaction to the hyperthyroid medicine. She can take small amounts and it will basically react in her faster than me. I mean, she could take children's Benadryl and get the same effect as me taking almost 3 diphenhydramine, almost 75 milligrams. It won't even phase me, but she can take like 5 or 10 milligrams and she just clears up and she's good. So it flushing out of her body was not a big change for me. We've been married now for 26 years and it's will be 26 years next month, month and 2 days, October 18th. So we've been together for 26 years. So we've been through a lot. And when she was basically going in the reverse now, what she was, got her into the doctor. The doctor was like, okay, now we need to start the whole thyroid replacement. Well, they started her on Synthroid. And that's the go-to medication for every single doctor out there because that's what they prescribe is levothyroxine, levothyroxine or something like that. I just know it's LVI something. So, but the name for it in the synthetic is Synthroid. And she started having like joint pain and her hair was falling out and her nails were not growing. They were all brittle and everything. I mean, she was every side effect you can think of on Synthroid, she was having. And we were telling the doctor all this, and the doctor was like, that's not because of this. That's something else. You need to go see your general practitioner about it. We're like, what's going, and we're going back every 2 months to go see this doctor. And we're like, finally asked him one day, so why are we coming back every 2 months if my numbers are fine? And he said, well, when she called after she left, she goes, numbers are great. Come back in 2 months. Okay. Well, she called her and said, why am I coming back every 2 months if my numbers are fine? And the nurse went to go ask the doctor, and the doctor said, oh, it's because you're not normal. You're still off, and we need to tweak it to make your numbers better. It's like, he's not increasing the medication. He's not decreasing the medication, but yeah, we're coming back every 2 months and we're still taking the same amount of medication, but the numbers aren't right. Something is wrong here. Mm-hmm. And my wife told this to a lady that she saw at, when she took the kids, I think to Chick-fil-A or something like that. And this lady goes, you need to go see this doctor that's, a few miles away from us, because she works with troubled people on troubled thyroids. And that's one of the things. She's a general practitioner, but she works with people on it. And she treats symptoms that she treats the way you feel more than she does the number. And it's like, okay, well, why not give it a shot? Why not see, And she said, well, she doesn't take our insurance. I said, well, we'll do whatever. Go see her. We'll pay cash. I don't care. So my wife started going seeing her. It was like $125 to go see this doctor. And she walked into the doctor's office and had her blood work before she went. The doctor looked at her, held her hands, and asked her how she was feeling. And basically sat there and listened to my wife. And my wife was like, I'm tired of taking Synthroid and it's not doing anything for me. She goes, yeah, I can see it's not doing anything for you because your numbers are all off. And she said, well, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to try the desiccated thyroid because she had no conversion to T3 at all. She was all T4 and all her TSH was off, but she had zero T3 and she wasn't converting. And she was like, I've heard that the desiccated thyroid actually has T3, and I think I would do better and not have all the side effects of Synthroid if I was on it. And I want to give it a shot, but no doctor will prescribe it for me. They said it's too hard to manage. And the doctor looked at her and says, no problem. I'm going to put you on 90 milligrams or 60 milligrams at the time. I can't remember. So we kept going back, and the doctor calls my wife a unicorn because she has all of the symptoms of she has all the symptoms of high hyperactive thyroid because she's still on a beta blocker, but she has low numbers. And we have to put her on 120 milligrams of thyroid replacement, which is really crazy. But to get her that much, she has to be on a beta blocker to prevent her heart rate from getting too high. And the beta blocker is slowing down her metabolism because it only allows your heart rate to get up to like 100 to 104 beats a minute, even with exercise.
Wow.
So, most fat burning things are, occur like at 125 beats a minute. You start burning things, you start utilizing fat and everything. And she can't get that high. So it takes her twice as much to get, anywhere as far as if she exercised. So she's gradually been gaining weight ever since she had her thyroid removed. And I'm like, there's got to be something out there. There's got to be a reason why or something we could do. And I started looking up all the information. And I was like, I put into search, I was like, no thyroid, need to lose weight into search. And the first thing that came up was a video for Dr. Barry interviewing Kelly Hogan. And this was right after KetoCon. I think it's going to be called Keto Palooza next year. And my wife follows a lot of keto people because she's been doing keto since 2011, 2012. She's been doing it for almost 12 years. And if she goes over 15 carbs, she's going to gain weight. And so I'm like, there's got to be something we can do that will allow you to lose weight, even if you, or maintain that 15 carbs. So I was watching this video and she was gone. And I was watching this video and I said, hey, she came back home and I said, have you ever heard of Ken Mary? And he's like, yeah, I was just watching a bunch of people that were at KetoCon and they were talking about him. And I said, well, I want you to watch this video. And he's interviewing this lady who's been doing this diet for 13 years. And she had a lot of issues with autoimmune and she lost weight. And I'm thinking maybe we might want to give this a try. And we watched the video together. And my wife has given up so much through celiacs and through keto already. And I hated to suggest it because she has, she's been She's like, well, what I have to do is give up eating altogether because nothing's working. And so we watched the video together, and I said, what do you think about just eating meat and getting rid of everything else and see if we get the inflammation down? She goes, well, I've already given up so much. Why not? And I said, okay, if you do it, I'll do it with you. Because we had just gone to the doctor and I was doing all this stuff, but I knew I had to lose weight. And I was like, well, I'm going to do this with you. And we're going to do this together because there's no reason why you should give up everything and be on your own. So I decided to do it with her, and then I started losing weight. She's actually lost 15 pounds since starting this, and it's the first time she's lost weight. And I mean, it's only 15 pounds in 4 months. It's not like, I'm twice the person she is. So I was like, honey, that's like you losing 30 pounds, though. Because if you were me, you would have been, my size. You probably would have been down 30 pounds. So think about it that way. You've lost 15 pounds, but if you were twice the size as you are, if you were my size, my wife's only 4'8", so she's a little thing, and she calls herself. I'm a shape of an apple. She says she's a tater tot. So she's like short, compact, and everything. So I love her to death. And so she's lost 15 pounds and she gets discouraged because she's like, yeah, I'm just not moving anymore. I said, you will move, and you don't worry about it because we got to get the things we got to do is we got to get your inflammation down. We got get your TSH numbers back to normal. And hopefully we can reduce the amount of thyroid replacement you're on so that we can get the beta blocker off. So if we get all these things under control and we get you off the beta blocker, then I guarantee you're going to drop it. But we have to get everything under control. And we have to get you receptive. So we heard about how magnesium works with hormones, how cholesterol works with hormones, how all this stuff. So we're hoping when she goes and has her blood work done in October, same as I am, that we're going to see better numbers for her so that we can take her off of this additional medication. We've already reduced, she was on 5 or 6 medications. She's down to 3.
Right.
She's down, maybe she's down to 2 now. I think she's on the beta blocker, just the thyroid now. But through this process, I was worried about gout, and I haven't had a flare up. As a matter of fact, I saw Kim Berry's video on gout, what causes it. I was really scared about it because I've been dealing with it since 2008, 2009. It's hereditary with my dad. My dad fights gout, and he's smaller than me. So I was on the 400 milligrams of allopurinol, and that didn't do anything for me. And I went to the max dose of Uloric, which was 80 milligrams. And that's the only thing that would actually give me any kind of relief. So I was concerned, all the stories, the red meat is all the red meat. That's the reason why you got gout. Well, when I was getting gout, I wasn't eating that much red meat because my wife's a chicken freak. We were eating more chicken than we were red meat. So I'm like, I don't think it's that. And then when I watched Kim Berry, I was like, well, it's inflammation and fructose and things like that cause the problems because you naturally have uric acid in your body, or your kidneys control how much you retain. It flushes it out when you don't need it. So you got an issue more with your kidneys and trying to get rid of the uric acid and keeping you normal than you do with adding uric acid to your body. Because he put it his way in his video. It's like eating red meat puts no more uric acid in your total body than you pouring salt in the ocean adds salt to the ocean. So I'm like, okay. light bulb moment. It's like, if red meat is not the issue, what is it? Anyway, I know to say that it's your inflammation and the fructose. And what's really ironic is one of the biggest treatments, or what they recommend you do, is drink tart cherry juice
Uh-huh.
to relieve gout. I'm like, what? I tried that. It never worked. What would actually work for me, though, was if they had a thing called Gouch. That's Gouch. And it was the cherry extract in powder form. And basically, it didn't have the fructose in it. So all that had been removed. So that would work for me to give me some relief. And of course, the anti-inflammatory medications, erythromycin was the best thing for me to relieve the pain. But I never could get relief from the fruit, the cherry juice. And I'm like, if this is supposed to help, why is it not helping me? And then I saw the thing about what Dr. Barry was saying. I was like, well, that makes sense. That's why it didn't work for me, because cherry juice, it's just sugar. And so when I got rid of all the sugar and I got my inflammation down, I was able to basically eat meat in peace. Now, I got into this way of eating. I just jumped in with both feet. Don't do that. Because I was crazy. If you have pets, okay, and you are going to change their diet, the vet will recommend that you change it slowly. You add a little bit of the new food in and mix it in until you're totally on to the new food. Because if you just give them the new food, it's going to upset their systems. They're going to have diarrhea. They're going to, it's going to be a mess. And they're going to be like that for days. So what do we do as humans? We don't listen to that. We're like, okay, I'm going to do a diet and I'm going to do it now. Oh, Lord have mercy. I did not even think about that. I didn't even cross my mind. So I'm here to tell you, if you're watching this and you're thinking about this diet, take your time with the diet. Don't just jump in, because your body's going to do some awful things to you, just like it would a dog or a cat that you change their food on. Because my body went flipping out on me for like 2 weeks. Well, this one weekend, I was so glad it was on the weekend, but I was sitting there and I was just having chills and I was miserable. I didn't have a fever. I was just, shaking and chilled and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is going on with me? I thought maybe I was having a gout flare up, because a lot of times when I had the inflammation in my legs and stuff, it would cause me, the heat and everything that was in that inflammation would cause me to have chills. And I thought maybe I was having a gout flare up. I was like, oh crap, here I am. I'm starting this diet 2 weeks in. I'm eating all this meat, and now I'm having a gout flare up. And I'm like, well, nothing's hurting. So what is it? What's going on? Well, I never heard of a thing called oxalate dumping. Never even crossed my mind. And somebody, I was watching somebody's video on this, and you might go through oxalate dumping and it can do some really bad things to you. And I'm like, what the heck's oxalate dumping? So I looked it up and I said, what's oxalate dumping? Type it in. And what's one of the symptoms for oxalate dumping? Guess what it is?
And chills.
Do you have any clue? Chills. Big bold print, chill. And I'm like, holy crap, I was having an oxalate dump. I had no clue what it was. But 2 weeks into this thing, that's what my body was just in shock. It was trying to, adjust to the fact that I'm no longer filling it full of all this crap. And it's like, this just isn't right. It's almost like a withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just miserable for a day. I was like in the bed, just curled up and shaking and everything. My wife's like, are you okay? I'm fine. Just don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. I'll be all right. She's like, do we need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, we don't need to go to the hospital. I'll be okay. I'm not sick. I don't have a fever. It's just something my body's doing to me right now. Well, she was worried to death. But, within a day it was gone. But I was like, why am I going through this? Well, I was dumping oxalate. So that's why I'm saying, don't jump into this thing. Take it slow if you're going into the process, because, people talk about, their poop and all that stuff and how bad it is and how they doesn't, am I getting enough fat? Am I not getting enough fat? Or just take it slow, or just, go into it slow. Another thing is I've had sleep apnea since 2008. 2009 was when I was put on my first machine. And when I went to go have the sleep study, I had over 900 events in an hour.
Wow.
When I went. And at that point, I think I weighed about 380, 390 pounds when I went in, because we had to go back, every month and have the machine looked at and all that, get all make sure you're doing it for insurance reasons and all this. And I think because they had me weigh every time, I think I weighed about 390 pounds at that point in 2008. And I was, um, I didn't really know how much I weighed because my scale wouldn't go above 400 pounds. I knew I weighed more than 400 because it gave me an error, but I just didn't know how much. And when I went to the doctor and it showed me 440 when I stepped on her scale, I was like, oh, Lord have mercy, I need to change this. So that was like my wake up call, was when I saw the 440 pounds on the scale. I've seen like 410, 415, something like that when I go see her. But when it showed me 440, I was like, there's no way, I got to change. Well, with the sleep apnea, with the 900 events, they had to put me on like 19. The highest of the CPAP will go is 20 on the pressure. And they put me on 19, and I was still having 30 events an hour, but it decreased from the 900. Well, in 2021, I think December, it was December of 2020, I got a new machine, and it's what they call the AirSense 10. And what it does is it actually senses what you need by however many events you're having, and it'll adjust the pressure. Well, when I first started using it, you can set the lowest pressure that you need to, for it to start at. Well, when I first got the machine, I didn't set the lowest pressure, and I was like dying when I laid down because it wasn't getting up high enough. So I looked into it and I set it at 12, just to give me a little bit more relief when I first lay down. I was sleeping in a chair, and just so I could keep myself somewhat upright. So I was in a recliner, sleeping in a chair for years. Um, we got a new bed in 2021. I was actually able to sleep in the bed because it's one of those, that would raise up in the back and everything. So I was able to sleep in bed and get out of the chair, but I was still on my CPAP. Well, the AirSense, I would wake up and it'd be like 14 or 15 on the AirSense. Well, now recently on the AirSense, it'll tell you how many events you have an hour. And recently I've averaged around maybe 1 or 2 events an hour.
Wow.
And at about it doesn't really go above my 12 on the pressure. So I'm hoping, as I continue with this and, the inflammation's gone and everything, that I'll be able to get off the CPAP here, hopefully by Christmas.
Yes,
Because
sir.
if I get down to 300 pounds, then I can get off my CPAP. And I was this close to being put on a BiPAP. And a BiPAP is the next level, because that's where it basically forces air in and forces air out. It sucks it out. And that's what the whole process with the CPAP, it just forces air in to keep your airway open. And right now, with me doing, 1 or even 0.4, I think is one time when I woke up, it had 0.4 events an hour. And I'm like, this is just crazy, And that's one of the other things. But this whole way of eating, it's just amazing what it does for your body and how it maintains your health, because it has everything you need and everything you don't need. In other words, you don't get all the other stuff that is out there in the other foods that your body doesn't need. So you basically are eating what your body requires to function properly. And a lot of people have a hard time with, well, you need to eat you're missing out on this, on the phytonutrients, and you're missing out on these things that plants can give you and all this stuff. And I'm like, my body doesn't process plants the way yours does. You go ahead and you keep eating your plants and you keep on eating that. Don't, I'm not asking you to eat a ton of meat, so don't ask me that I need to eat plants to maintain my health, because I'm not the same as you. We are not the same. There are some people that can tolerate the toxins that are in plants. Great for them. If you can tolerate it and your body will accept it, hey, more power to you. My body doesn't do that. My body doesn't know what to do with carbs. And I'm just like, I'm not going to do that, so make me don't make me feel bad for the fact that I don't eat that, because I'm not going to sit here and make you feel bad for actually eating plants. That's your prerogative, you know? So I'm just like, there's no way I'm going to go in there, and I'm not missing out on these things. I'm getting everything I need. If I didn't, then it'll show up in my blood work when I do my blood work. What about cholesterol? You worried about cholesterol? Heck no, I'm not worried about cholesterol, because we need it. Cholesterol is something you have to have. It's a building block of pretty much every cell in your freaking body. So am I worried about it? No. I've seen people with the best cholesterol in the world die of a heart attack. So don't sit here and tell me that I need to be worried about my cholesterol when there's people dying that have the best cholesterol that a doctor's ever seen. And you're more concerned about a number that is something that our body needs and has to have. And I'm not worried about it. Now, we're not doctors. We're not nutritionists. We're not trying to tell anybody this is what you should do. Right? So we're here just saying, this is what it's done for me. You want to give it a try, see what it does? Fine. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just telling you what it's doing for me. I'm telling you how I feel. I'm telling you I'm losing weight. I'm off my medications. I am feeling better than I have in months. So you do you, I'll do me. If you want to try it, go ahead. If you don't want to try it, hey, I'm not going to sit here and make you do it. The old saying is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, what does that mean? Well, you can take him up to the water trough, but you can't force his head down in the water trough to drink the water. Well, I can show you what this way of eating does for me, but I can't sit here and make you stop eating certain things and eat a certain way. You have to make that decision on your own. So you can go and review everything that's going on out there. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are doing this. And you can go out there and you can say, there's thousands of people doing this. They're all going to die. Or you can go out there and say, there's thousands of people out there doing this and they're all getting better. What's going on? So it's totally up to you. I can't make anybody do anything. I can only control what I do. And for me and this house, this body, we're going to continue doing this because we've never been better. And you can take a look at a picture of me before and take a look at a picture of me now, and you can't sit there and look at that picture and say he's worse off than he was. There's no way he can be worse off, because I was a swollen mess in November and March. And the pictures I have, I was a swollen mess and I looked terrible. I'm still a work in process. I mean, I'm not I mean, I've got all this loose skin going on here. I love the loose skin though, because it's not like a big, I was looking like this before, and so I look at the loose skin and I'm like, it's a badge of courage basically, because I took a step into my health, and I did bad things to get me to where I was, but now I'm doing good things to get me to where I am now. So I think that's pretty much my story. If I missed anything, I think maybe you might be able to think of it.
Ron, you're a fabulous storyteller, sir. Thank you very, very much. Whoa. Hey, Ron, what if somebody offered you $1 billion to go back the way you were?
I tell you to eat that $1 billion. Because you're going to get as much benefit out of that $1 billion eating it as I will by eating that other stuff. So that's what I would say.
Awesome, brother. Wow. Well, Ron, it has been fabulous to have you on. Now, but give a pitch real quick about where people can find you.
Well, Overcoming Carbs is my YouTube channel, my Instagram channel, and my Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook and request the friend request. I'll be more than happy to accept you. Follow me on Instagram. I've put a few things out there when I can, but most of the time my YouTube stuff, whenever I put a new video out there, I'll put it out to Facebook and let people know there. I've got the links to YouTube on my Instagram, and I got the links to the Instagram and YouTube on my Facebook. And I think on YouTube I have the links to Instagram and Facebook. So you can find me pretty much anywhere. Just look up Overcoming Carbs. I think it's 2 words on the thing, but it's 1 word if you do the @Overcoming Carbs. But that's where you can find me at any place. I kept it all the same. And basically I named it that just, that my wife and I came up with it. It's like, we came up with something, and she goes, no, people might think that is, derogatory or something. I was like, okay, so what do you think? Maybe it's, I'm overcoming this sugar addiction, but I can't really do overcoming sugar addiction. That's way too long. I go, what do you think about overcoming carbs? And she's like, great. That sounds great. Do it. So that's where we came up with. That's where you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, for coming on.
I appreciate it. I'm glad I could tell you about all this, and I appreciate you asking me to come on here.
You're very, very welcome. Well, it's been fabulous hanging out with Ron of Overcoming Carbs, and I thank you all for tuning in and enjoying the story with me. Be bold, everybody.
From pain to gain, I changed the game. Carnivore life, never the same. Standardized, filled with lies. I see through the disguise.